CO2 does nothing. I held a small presentation at a park in Watford, and amongst the people present was Piers Corbyn. Now, if that name sounds familiar, that's because he is the brother of British Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn. Piers is a weatherman, a meteorologist. He is also a climate change denier who claims that none of the data presented by organizations from all over the world is reliable.
The sun is driving climate change. CO2 is irrelevant.
The science, so-called, of these scientists you referred to is failed science based on fraudulent data. We understand that the sun, solar particle and magnetic effects, which control Earth's weather and climate, and we're able to predict this a long time ahead.
One of the things he said was that CO2 caused greening. This was kind of striking because we were at a park in England where it had been dry for weeks, and it showed. The grass was brown all over the place. Trees were shedding their leaves when there was wind. Does this mean that CO2 causes greening or shedding? It's not as straightforward of an answer as you think. First, let's consider the formula of photosynthesis. An equal part of water and an equal part of carbon dioxide react under the influence of sunlight to create a glucose molecule and 6 oxygen molecules. The glucose is then used for a variety of functions, from creating new wood, leaves, flowers, and seeds. But it is also used to provide the energy some cells need to function. In this case, some of the glucose is turned back into carbon dioxide and water, which are both respirated back into the air. In the Amazon, for instance, evapotranspiration, which means that the water that is respirated is evaporated back into the atmosphere, is responsible for creating a virtual river in the air, which bounces back against the Andes mountain range to precipitate back onto the forest. Hence the name, rainforest. And this gives us another clue about the shared and mutual influence of CO2 and H2O. The climate and the makeup of the soil determines what kind of vegetation you get. On the tundras, you get nothing but shrubs and moss. There's enough water there, but most of it is frozen. The shrubs have a fleeting moment in which they can get their water and minerals from the ground, so they don't bury their roots so deep and stay small. In the woods of the temperate zones, many different plants and trees can get plenty of water and minerals from the soil. The water table is accessible. Trees and plants are generally healthy. In the rainforest, the soil is very moist. Sometimes you even get mangrove forests, which are rooted in water rather than the soil. If the availability of water is constant, the vegetation remains green. If the availability of water decreases, so do photosynthetic processes. Trees dig deeper, and they show water deprivation later than, for instance, grass. Grass turns brown pretty early because they are not deep-rooted. A couple of days without rain and grass easily turns brown. You'll get patches of brown amid beautiful green fields. If a drought becomes more prolonged, these patches turn into entire fields. And if the drought ensues, the trees start shedding their leaves. It's not a dramatic change at first. Remember, trees store lots of water in their leaves. But once the trees are deprived of groundwater, photosynthetic processes continue to draw upon the water present in the leaves, which doesn't get replenished anymore. And so the leaves dry out. And once there's not enough water anymore, the leaves start to drop. The funny thing is that people who deny climate change keep harping about the non-essential role of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. They forget that a large portion of all the mass of flora and fauna originated from that minuscule amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which was captured by photosynthetic life forms. Also, this infinitesimally small volume of carbon dioxide, of which a fraction causes the world to soak up 520,000 Hiroshima bombs worth of energy extra each day, is not unimportant. Carbon dioxide and water fuel and feed the world's forests. It's a key ingredient in evapotranspiration, the source of 10% of the world's cloud cover. With an increase in temperature, thanks to the increase of carbon dioxide, and the destabilization of precipitation patterns, particularly of increased droughts, comes the polar opposite of greening. Vegetation becomes more vulnerable and dies, either because of pests like the mountain pine beetle, or thanks to wildfires, or simply because the drought proved to be fatal. Carbon dioxide is an essential ingredient of the world we see around us. It's a balance game, however. The world goes through cycles of high and low concentrations of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. However, the current increase in carbon dioxide levels, thanks to the burning of fossil fuels, wood, and animal feces, are unprecedented. And with that, I leave you. I was extremely surprised that a man like Piers Corbyn thought that it was worth the while to confront me with his climate change denialism. For a long time, I wanted to focus on the good that nuclear brings to the table. To me, it is the answer to a lot of the problems we face. But it seems that we have to hammer home the reality of climate change. It is real and it is dangerous. Call me an alarmist if you will. I'm comfortable with that. I feel alarmed. Thank you all for watching and have a nice day.